Hello. So we're going to start the webinar in 5 seconds. Ask yourself the question, do you agree that time is precious? And ask yourself the question, do you agree that time is precious? And ask yourself the question. All right. We had a little bit of feedback, but we'll start again. So ask yourself the question, do you agree that time is precious? And ask yourself the question, do you agree that the more impact we can make, the better? My name is Navdeep Pasricha, and today's session is going to focus on how to secure a mentor, so that instead of having to climb up a ladder and struggle and spend forever just trying to find your next way up, you can have doors open for you. Instead of having this uncertainty on the inside of what's the best step to take next and what's the right decision to make, you can have somebody who's well experienced in the industry give you their advice, and you have this certainty inside you that you're getting the best insight from people who know what they're doing. And what's more, how to speed up a life where you're excited and happy because you're doing work that you truly love. Now, as we had mentioned before, time is precious, so we're really going to focus in on this. I'm going to share my screen now. I'm going to share my screen now. Fantastic. So hopefully now you can see my slides. We'll just double check that that is working. Perfect. So hopefully now you can see my slides. Just give me a thumbs up if you can see my slides. It should say how to secure a mentor. So as we were talking about, I've had the absolute pleasure of presenting to almost 20,000 people in 10 countries. I've had the pleasure, can't see my slides, fantastic. Listen, sometimes slides don't work, we'll see what happens, but we'll go with the flow and I'll speak at the same time. Even though I am a man, I'm going to try to multitask. So I've had the absolute pleasure of presenting to almost 20,000 people in 10 countries, of sitting on numerous government advisory boards and really waking up every day and feeling excited about what I get to do, which is train people all around the world on well-being, emotional intelligence, and their careers. Now, here's the thing. For me to be able to do this, if it wasn't for my supportive family and if it wasn't for my amazing mentors, there's not a chance in the world that I'd be able to do things like this. And so I'm really excited today to share exactly how to secure a mentor. A lot of people talk about it. They give vague and ambiguous advice. They say mentors are very important. You should have somebody you look up to, a role model. But really, very rarely does it go into the detail, the step-by-step, easy to follow framework on how you can secure a mentor. And speaking of which, it's important that we clarify that we're going to be talking about securing a mentor today. So once my slides come up, we'll be able to see there are actually quite a few steps. The first step is, how do you find and set up the right mentor and set up some communication with them? And then there's securing them, so getting them to want to help you. And thirdly is, how do you savor that relationship? So how do you make sure that you're making the most of it, that they're getting something out of it, that you're getting something out of it, and it's a win-win situation. And lastly, after savoring it, how do you sustain it? So it's not a short-term thing, so that for years or for decades, you can have this prosperous and really meaningful relationship. So whilst there are 4 stages to mentorship: setting it up, securing it, savoring it, and sustaining it, today we're going to be focused on how to secure a mentor. So this means you've already selected who you think is going to be a good mentor. You've somehow been able to have a coffee or a phone call or a Zoom call or meet them in person. And now you're at the stage where you're meeting them, and what do you do next? As I said, there are quite a few slides prepared, but things happen. We're just going to try our best until the amazing tech team helps us get that going. All right, so let's go. I'm just coordinating with the tech team to get the slides going, but we'll start anyways. All right. Now, before we start with exactly what to do, there's some really, really important myths that we have to debunk straight away. And there are 3 myths in particular when it comes to mentoring. And the first myth is that you have to be in the right room at the right time. That in order for you to get the best advice, you have to somehow gather yourself around an elite group of people who have all the secret sauce and herbs and spices. But this is not the case. I am a firm believer that everybody is a mentor to me in something. Be it from business advice, be it how to be a good sibling, be it how to play a new sport. Everybody is better at something than you are. And when you have that sort of mindset that, hey, whenever I'm talking to a new person, there's something I can learn from them, it really does change the whole game. So that's the first thing. You don't have to be in the right room at the right time. Ultimately, there's something you can learn from everybody. The second thing that I find people really screw up a lot of the time is that they feel that it's a sale. I'm going to a mentor and I'm trying to convince them to invest in me. I'm trying to convince them that it's worth their time to even give me a go. And this couldn't be further from the case. Having a mentoring relationship isn't like a sale. It's more like watering a seed. It's not about making that transaction there and then. It's about the long-term relationship of how can you nurture, how can you invest in this relationship so that it's prosperous and meaningful for years, if not decades to come. So the first myth is that you don't have to be in the right room at the right time. You can learn something from anybody. In fact, my cousin Harday, she gave me some great advice. I said, you know, what if they haven't been so successful in their venture, or they had a failure, or they had a roadblock, or they fell down? And he gave me this great piece of advice. He says, if you can learn what the mistakes are without having to go through them, then you can have that anticipation, and it means that your journey will be so much smoother. So the first thing is you don't have to be in the right room at the right time. Everybody can be a mentor to you at something. Here's the second part. We talked about it already. It's not a sale. It's more like watering a seed. And the last part, and this is where I find it the most interesting, is that when it comes to securing a mentor, it's not about you. In fact, I would highly suggest that when you're going through this conversation, when you're securing a mentor, you should be talking no more than 30% of the time. It's not about what you can bring to the table. It's about really having the mentor get to a place where they understand how precious you find their time and how much you're really grateful for them offering their help. Okay, so we've run through the 3 myths. The first was right room, right time. The second being it's not a sale, it's planting a seed. And the absolute last one is that it's not really about you, it's much more about them. Now, again, the slides are being a little bit tricky, but we're going to jump straight in and see as good as we can get it, because sometimes lives happen. I want you to write this down. The structure we're going to use for today on how to secure a mentor is called the RACES structure. So if you just write down on a piece of paper in front of you the words RACES. That's RACES. The RACES structure to securing a mentor. And we're going to walk through each one of those RACES step by step, so that by the end of this, you know exactly what you need to know. There's no ambiguity and such. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them, and I will try my absolute best to come across them. But what we're going to do for a moment is I want you to just take a moment, and if you can put down in the comments, what is your desired outcome for securing a mentor? We said that time is really precious. If you could secure a mentor, why? What will that do for you? What will it mean for you? Why is it so important for you? So I'm going to give you a minute, 30 seconds. I'm going to shut the video for a second so you have a bit of time. And I'm going to give you a moment to ask, why is it so important? Just another 30 seconds. Ten seconds. Okay, perfect. Let's have a look at the questions. Okay, there's a really great question here. It says, can you also explain your context about what a mentor is? So my context, great question by Chris, Raymond, Vere. My context, and nice to see you again, Hunter. And Kabiba, my context about what a mentor is literally somebody who is further ahead in a path than you are in any path. So if they even just 5 centimeters ahead of you in a path, be that in a business venture, be that in a hobby, be that in whatever really, if they are further ahead of you in a path, I see them as a mentor because it means there's something you can learn from them. All right. So now hopefully you can see the slides. It's not in PowerPoint mode, but whatever, we'll do the best with what we have. I'll run through again the 4 steps to actually having a long-term relationships with a mentor. Today, we're going to focus on the secure step. We talked about the myths, being it's not you. You don't have to be in the right room at the right time. And really the focus is not about you, it's about them. So races, Mario is excited. So let's break it down. What are these 5-step of the races model? So the R, this is really important. It's all about first impressions. And really without the R, you're going to be hard held to make the rest of the system work. So the R is so important to lay a foundation for the rest of the races framework. And the R stands for rapport. A rapport is really about building a connection with somebody so that they feel like, hey, this person's good. I think I can give he or she a bit of my time. Now, I could spend a whole 2 hours on rapport. This is what I usually do in my workshops. But what we're going to do, because time is limited, we're going to just go through the basics of it. And if you'd like more information of it, you can get in touch with me. You can see my email below right after this webinar. But let's talk about rapport in its very essence. And rapport really boils down to the 3 Ps. The 3 Ps of rapport. The first is precious. You need to make it explicit to the mentor, to the person you're trying to get on your side, that you find their time just so precious. That, you know, I'm so grateful that you've given me this time. I know time is really precious. I want to respect your time. Do you see how those 3 lines specifically show the mentor that, wow, this person really values that I'm giving them my time, and they feel, okay, this is okay. I know it is my time. I could be doing something else right now, but they're really grateful. Let's go ahead. So those 3 lines. I want to respect your time. I'm really grateful you made this. I know time is precious. Those are 3 lines you can use straight away. The second P is presence. Now, this is all about being fully present in the conversation. If your phone rings, if you're looking around the place, if you're thinking about other things, it will come off and the mentor will be like, hey, why am I wasting my time with this person? I've given mentorship, I've received mentorship, and trust me, if a person's not present with me, it's really not, I don't like it. The last one stands for paper. Now, this was so interesting. I was in Silicon Valley, San Francisco. I was reaching out to people on LinkedIn, and this one person, his name was Jacko. He was so kind. He made his time out of his day. He's like a world-level sales coach. He made time out of his day to meet me at a hotel. And after a while, he was giving me all this great info, and he asked, are you not writing this down? And I realized in that moment, you know, he taught me something I'll never forget, and I'm so grateful for it. If you want to show a person that you value what they have to say, then it is of utmost importance that you have a piece of paper and you're ready to take notes. Yes, maybe you remember it without it, but it's a sign of value, it's a sign of respect, it's a sign that, hey, I really care about what you have to say. So make sure you have a piece of paper. And if you want bonus points after the conversation, within 3 days to a week, type up the notes and send it to them. I've been to a couple of keynote speeches where I connected with the keynoter in networking and got their email or found them on LinkedIn or whatever and send them a photo of my handwritten notes and then a typed up summary. This just goes to show that you really value their time and you value them as a person. So the 3 Ps: precious, presence, and paper. I know this is an overview. As I said, normally I'd spend up to 90 minutes to 2 hours just on rapport. A really great book I would read just to start with the basics is How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. I would definitely recommend that. I read it a little bit later in my career, but the essential truths are there for sure. Fantastic. So Mario's back. We've covered rapport. So you walk into the coffee shop, you walk into the restaurant, you walk into the whatever, and you build rapport. You know, you've had that small talk, but now you're sitting down with him or her, and let's get down to business. Let's actually start the conversation. Now, you might be wondering, you know, as a mentee, what value can I add to this mentor? And why would they want to spend their time with me? And the A is all about answering that question. You see, there's a really interesting concept in neuroscience that is the relationship between your emotion and your memory. The part of the brain responsible for emotion, your amygdala, is directly related to the part of your brain responsible for memory. And so the more emotionally charged an event, the more you remember it. This could be a positive event like your first kiss, or it could be a negative event like a funeral or such. But basically, the key to this is the value you can give to the mentor is that when they walk away from the conversation, they just remember that when they were chatting with you, they felt amazing. And because the emotion and memory part of their brains are so linked, when they think of you, they will think, when I'm with this person, it makes me feel amazing. I want to be with this person more. And that starts all the way back with the A, and that's why it's so important. The A in the RACES model stands for adventure. Now, what does this mean? It isn't Indiana Jones adventure. What adventure is really about? What adventure is really about is for this mentor to get to where they are now. You can imagine for them to be at this level of success, they would have had to go through a bit of an adventure with trials and tribulations, with successes and failures, with uncertainty and certainty. And whilst they meet people all the time who say, what do you do now? How did you decide to do this back in the day? Where did you go to university? How often is it that people ask them for the nitty-gritty details, that people pay attention, that people give the time and focus and presence for them to tell the entire coming-of-age story? You know, when you're at a dinner party or a hangout and you just have a really great story to share, and there's this one person who will listen to you. It's very rare that these people are existent all the time. So if you could be that one person for this mentor to really care about what their story is, to ask them about their past, not only will they think you care, but it'll also going to evoke a lot of emotions in them. They're going to remember, oh, when I was a beginner, I did this, you know, oh, I forgot about this story, or I made this mistake, or oh, the good old days. If you can help them focus on the good old days, they're going to feel amazing. And when they feel amazing, they're going to link that emotion to you. So what are some specific questions we can ask to awaken their adventure? Because the A is all about getting them to go back to the good old days and sharing that in-depth story with you. Let's share the screen again. Share the screen again. Ah, technology loves me, isn't it? My golly. Here we go. So some questions you can ask to get them to think about their days in the adventure are these ones. The most obvious one is, why do you do what you do? Now, this can be a little bit forward, but in essence, all the questions we're asking is to understand that. So I'm definitely going to advise you now to, on your piece of paper and on your laptop, to take note of these specific questions. The first one is, why? So why do you do what you do? You know, you could be really successful. I feel like you could do a lot of things. You've been in the game for a long time. Why do you do what you do? That's probably the most basic way to ask it. What I definitely recommend instead is the second one, little girl. So when you were a little girl, did you wake up one day when you were a little girl and decide, this is what I want to do? Did you wake up one day when you were a little boy or a little girl and decide, this is what I want to do? The third way to ask is, what you do is really unique. What was the adventure to get here? How did you come to this point? Did you always know that this is what you wanted to do? And so these are three ways of asking the same question. But basically, what you want to do is you want them to go all the way back to the start and tell you the story of how they got to where they are. If you've ever watched a movie like Rocky, or you've ever watched a movie like that, you would notice that there's always this montage. There's always this montage of how people, they go from nothing and they become something huge. And for people to have their own montage in front of you, you're giving them a true gift, and they'll really be grateful for that. So again, why do you do what you do? Did you wake up one day when you were a little girl and say, this is what you want to do? What you're doing is very unique. How did you get here? And honestly, asking is not enough. You then have to be present with them again and say, oh, and so what happened here? Oh, so you did this after that? Oh, that's really cool. What about this? And so you can think of yourself like a treasure hunter. They have all these beautiful memories and treasures inside of them, and it's up to you to hunt it and let them express it and experience it once again. Now, again, you might be thinking that, you're having this conversation and you're asking all these questions and you feel just a bit robotic, it's a bit scripted, but it's like learning how to ride a bike. You have to think about it, fall off, think about it, fall off, think about it, until eventually it just becomes natural. So for me, when I'm in a conversation with somebody, I'm wanting them to be my mentor or such, it's not like I'm thinking through these stages step by step, it's just become natural now. And with enough practice and knowing that you will fall off the bike, you will eventually be able to ride the bike just like that. All right. Also, understand that you can use this in any setting. I've used this for people to teach me investment advice to relationship advice, from advice on how to sell and market and provide a great business, to advice on how to cook better. People are people. We share the screen again. Well, hopefully it works better this time. It really, really does like me. But anyways, that's the first. We've talked about the R in the RACES model, which stands for rapport. And we've talked about the A, which stands for adventure. So obviously, the next letter in RACES is the C. But just to clarify, the adventure is all about getting them to think about when they loved the good old days. And so you can imagine now, you're at this point where you've built rapport with them, you've built rapport with them, and you're having all this small talk. They're like, okay, this person's cool, he or she is cool. And then we move on to A for adventure, and adventure is all about, hey, reliving the good old days, and it's just bringing up the memories for them of when they went through what they went through. And it's also making them think, oh, when I look at this person asking me the questions, I see a younger version of myself. So at this stage, they're excited and you make them feel great. So they're open to listening and they're like, oh, this person really cares about me. They've asked me a bunch of questions. And it's so interesting. I've met executives who used to be tree loppers. That, I asked them about, so how did you meet your wife? It's really about digging deep. So if somebody says, and then I got married, ask, how did you meet your wife? If somebody says, I went to this university, ask, so was that your first preference? If somebody said they changed career, that must have been a big decision. What was it like at the time? The more questions you ask, don't make it like an interrogation, obviously talk as well, but the more curious you are, the better. So that's the R for rapport, the A for adventure, and now the C. The C is what distinguishes a good conversation from a lasting relationship. Because sure, you could just sit around and talk about the good old days, but what's stopping it from just being another conversation where you shake hands and never meet again? How do you ensure, the C ensures, that whatever this mentor is working towards, their future, you are a part of that future? And the C stands for clarity captain. Clarity captain. So let's talk about clarity. The clarity captain, the C in the races model, is all about finding out where is this mentor going with their project, initiative, organization, venture, passion. Where are they going? What is their aim? If they are the captain of the ship, you need to get clarity around where this ship is going. And this is really important because later we're going to find out how do you fit into that ship. But now it's important to understand where is this ship going? What is their vision? What are they working towards? What's exciting them right now? You would notice this pattern of excitement. Before, they were really excited about the good old days and how far they've come. Now you're getting excited about where they're going. So let's share the screen again. Wow, my computer is really loving me today. So let's get them excited about where they're going. And we're going to make sure that you, as always, you have some very specific questions. So with clarity, what's your ultimate vision? You could ask that. What are you striving towards? What does success look like? All different ways to ask the same question. What's your ultimate vision? What does success look like? And finally, what are you striving towards? Another way I like to ask is, let's say this person's name is Courtney. So Courtney, I just want you to imagine, it's 10 years from now, and you're looking back in time and you're like, wow, this has been an amazing experience, and you just have the biggest smile on your face because you've done it. Why? What does that look like? So I said again, imagine it's 10 years from now and you're looking back and you just have the biggest smile on your face, and because you've done it. How come? What does that look like? What does success look like? And so you're getting them to really put their focus to something exciting because they're remembering why they do what they do, what they're striving towards. You got to understand, if a mentor is making time for you, they're probably a very busy person, and it's very easy. I'm sure we've both had times in our lives where we can lose sight of what we're working towards when the small things really add up and become overwhelming and get in the way. And so if you can remind them and get their focus on what the big picture is, mate, they are going to get excited and link that excitement to you, as we talked about previously. Now, the last one, this is really important. What would it mean? What would it mean? Now, why is this so important? You see, with the first two questions, I had this going on quite a bit, but I always found that there was a gap. I felt like there could be something more that was done, and that there was always something missing in my conversations with mentors. Until one of my own mentors, Harry Singer from England, gave me this last piece of advice that really changed the game. What would it mean? This is asking somebody to share with you, the mentor to share with you deep down, why is achieving their goal so important? Why is it a must? What does it mean for them? Maybe it's a legacy thing. Maybe it's they look back and they're like, wow, I really made the most of my life. Maybe it's a financial thing. They say, I can support my family, or I can retire my parents, or something like that. Maybe it's an impact thing that they can give to charity or such. But what is the bigger why behind what they're doing? What is the bigger why behind the what of what they're doing? It's really important to ask, what does this mean for you? And they might be like, what do you mean? I don't really know. And this is what you ask, like, why are you really doing this? Is it for your family? Is it an impact thing? Is it a financial thing? And you got to understand, people don't normally ask these questions. And so they might not have the answer straight away. It's up to you to be patient, to maintain that rapport, and make them feel comfortable. It's like a baby, if you're stressed out and you're cradling a baby, the baby's going to be stressed out. If your conversation and you're feeling stressed out and awkward and you don't have the sense of certainty, it's going to rub off. You just be calm, cool, and confident about it, and it'll be okay. So you ask, what would it mean to you? Now, what's important is that whilst you get them to focus on the pleasure of achieving that goal, on the positive of achieving that goal, It's also very important that they remember the negative of not achieving that goal, that they remember the pain of not achieving that goal. So, if they don't achieve the goal, will they feel unsatisfied? Will they feel regret? Will they feel that, they couldn't make as big of an impact as they wanted to, or such? And I know this sounds a bit weird, a bit strange, a bit not ordinary, but we will come to it. This is sensationally important because, Epicurus said, the philosopher, that people do what they do either to obtain pleasure or to avoid pain. Either to obtain pleasure or to avoid pain. If you think about a child studying for an exam, some of them are like, yeah, I'm so excited, I want to do well, I want to make my family proud, and they're studying really hard to obtain pleasure. You think about another child sitting the same exam, and it could be, I don't want to fail because I'll feel embarrassed, I'll get in trouble, people will lose respect for me. It's the exact same thing, but instead of looking for pleasure, they are, they are avoiding pain. So you want to make sure that you, how do I say, elicit the pleasure motivation for achieving their goal, but also the pain motivation for achieving their goal. Because this way you can see how much value you've placed on that goal and they've placed on the goal. So it's just so important at this stage, because they know that they have a lot to lose and they also have a lot to gain. So it's really, really, really important. Okay, so just to give you another chance, if you want to take a second to write down some of the questions I had shared earlier, some of the example lines. I thought it was really important to give you exact lines so that you can walk away from this knowing exactly what to do. So I'll bring it up again. These are some of the questions that you could consider asking when it comes to clarity. What's your ultimate vision? What are you really striving for? Cool. And I do see there are a couple of questions. What I'll do is keep asking the questions. At the end, I'm going to give some time and such. All right, fantastic. So now we're at the point where we've built rapport with the R. With the A, we've had this sense of adventure. They're excited. They remember the good old days, and they're like, yeah, you know what, young person? I was in your stage as well. I can empathize with you. Let me give you some time. Hey, come on. The C is for clarity, captain. You know exactly where they're heading, and they care about it. They're like, I have to get this because look at the upside, and I have to get this because look at the downside if I don't get it. Now, this is all well and good, but what does it have to do with you? And how do you fit into this picture? How is it that moving forward, it's not a great conversation where you both pathways and meet every now and then, but you have a rich, meaningful, and lasting relationship with this person. So, and that's what the E is all about, making sure that you have a place in their life and they have a place in your life moving forward. And the E stands for explicit value. Explicit value. You might remember that one of the myths we talked about is that it's not a sale, it's watering a seed. And also, securing a mentor is not actually about you, it's about how can you serve the mentor. I know it's a bit counterintuitive because mentors are supposed to help you out and such, but really, this securing the mentor conversation is about how can you serve the mentor. And why is this so important? You can imagine that all the time, people are just asking from them, asking from them, asking from them. If you can flip it on their head and say, how can I serve you? How can I add value to you? How can I support you? Then you stand out from everybody else. And also, there's this amazing saying that the secret to living is giving. The secret to living is giving. When you give, you get back so much more, and it just feels good. Sure, not all mentors will give you something back, but you shouldn't do things just because you have an expectation of a return. All right, so explicit value. Now, this derives down to one simple statement. You can say this word for word, and you can adjust it to your own language so you don't sound like a robot. But explicit value the one line that has changed the game for me, that has allowed me to achieve my mission so much faster, that has allowed doors to be open, and for me to have this security inside that I have some of the legends of the industry looking after me. It just has changed everything. And the one line is this: I want you to think broadly. What are 3 ways that someone can support you personally or professionally? I want you to think broadly. What are the 3 ways someone can support you personally or professionally? I'm going to pause for 20 seconds and I'm just going to let you write that down. This is the gold. All right. So I want you to think broadly. What are 3 ways someone can support you personally or professionally? Now, this is something I actually learned from my own mentor. I was going to Silicon Valley. I said, how can I make the most of this trip? They said, listen, instead of always asking from them, ask them first, how can you support them? I literally had people who said, I've been in business for 15 years and nobody has ever asked me this. And so obviously we have a special place in each other's hearts. All right, so this is a bit left field. It might not be something that people are used to asking, but basically you want to understand explicitly, how can you support this person? They might be, I don't really know, I'm not sure what to do. And that's totally understandable because this is not an ordinary question, but you're not after an ordinary result, you're after an extraordinary result. So we must ask extraordinary questions. So let's walk this through. Let's say you're the mentor and I'm the mentee and I'm asking you questions. So listen, thank you so much for your time. It's been so great, and I've just been so inspired about what we've talked today, and I just want to ask. You seem like such a giving person, but just think broadly about this question. Okay, what are 3 ways that somebody can support you or your organization? This can be professional, like maybe you need marketing help, maybe you're looking for interns, maybe you're doing this, maybe you have a new campaign, but it can also be personal. Maybe you're going on a holiday to my country, maybe you're looking for date ideas, maybe, you have a special birthday coming up, something like that. So just what are some ways that somebody can support you right now? So it's really casual like that, the way you say it. Don't say help, say support. It just has a different ring to it. Don't say help, say support. And the chances are they'll have 1, but you need to extract 3 out of them. I used to say 5, but 3. At a minimum 2, but at least 3. And you should be suggesting, oh, could you use any help in your marketing? Do you need any interns? Do you have any problems you're facing right now? Are you going on holiday soon? Do you have any birthdays coming up? Things like that. And when they start to tell you, say, I want to make sure that I remember this and I'm fully present. I want to make sure that I remember this and I'm fully present. Are you comfortable if I write this down? Are you comfortable if I write this down? And they'll say yes. And then you write it down, and fantastic. So you write it down and you write down, okay. And as they're telling you, you want to ask clarifying questions. So if they could say, we need help with our digital marketing. This is a big term. Do they need help with Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, social media, Google Ads, search engine optimization? You want to make sure that you clarify so you have crystal clarity coming up again. Okay? So you ask them questions and be relaxed with them, but don't let them off the hook until they come back with you with 3. And if they say, I'm totally good, then say, okay, is there anybody that you'd like to support now? Is there a charity you'd like to support? And you need to make sure that you have at least 2, if not 3 things that it's so clear how you can support them. Now, you got to understand that this seems a little bit odd, but you've got rapport. They've told you about their adventure, so they're comfortable with you. They know exactly where they're going. They remember the big vision. They remember the why, and they remember why it's so important. And they're excited about it. And so for them to think about what needs to happen for that vision to be achieved is not that difficult at this stage because you've done all the groundwork of the RACES model. Okay, so at this stage, you've asked them for the 3 things and such. And also just a quick tip, if you really wanted to, when you were asking them about what would this mean to you, if you got it or if you didn't achieve it, in some circumstances, I do this in my consulting work, is I ask them, on my training work, I ask them for a monetary value. If you had to put a dollar figure on this, if you had to put a number, I know we're just talking amongst people, but just on the top of your head, ballpark figure, what would you give it? That's just something you can add if you feel it's right in your gut. Okay. But anyways, getting back to the E for explicit value, you've asked, what are 3 ways that I can support you professionally or personally? Okay. And you have it written down, you've clarified it, and then you summarize to them. Okay, so just to clarify, just so we're on the same page, one way I can support you is you're going to Malaysia soon and you're looking for some things to do. The second is that you're really looking at ways to marketing to an audience in this part of the world. And the third thing is you're looking for some information or some training on HR management or how to build a great culture. They say, yeah, cool. Here's the thing. You do not have to have all the answers. You do not have to have all the answers. However, if you want this mentor to really guide you, to really help you, to really take you under their wing, make it your mission to find the answers. Now, this means you could find somebody on LinkedIn. You could find somebody from your network that you already know. You could find a blog article or whatever, but find a way to actually add value to that mentor. This is the most important thing. And it's actually going to take us to our next step, the final step in the RACES model, RACE. And now the final step in the RACES model. Ooh, my slides are being cheeky once again. This final step in the RACES model is standing for S, which stands for Speedy Follow-up. Now, Speedy Follow-up is all about what do you do after that conversation where you've taken them through the rapport, you've taken them through the adventure, you've taken them through the clarity captain, you've taken them through the explicit value, and now you're either at the end of the conversation or you're a day after the conversation or something like that. What do you do to make sure that this turns from a conversation into a mentoring relationship? How do you make that switch? And this is all about speedy follow-up. It's about making it your mission straight after that conversation to find solutions to their problems. And that solution could just be a connection to somebody. Hey, I know this person who knows this person, maybe I can introduce you. Obviously, if you're early on in building your network, that might not be a choice, but often I find that that's what I do the most now. I don't have all the answers, but I can find somebody who does. Where there's a will, there's a way, right? It could be that you Google and you find the 5 best articles and you send them a summary of it in a document. It could be that you hear this course or this podcast or something, but don't leave it to chance. Seriously, do not leave it to chance. Make it your mission to find it. And you might find that throughout the course of the conversation, you just don't gel well with this person. And then you say, thank you so much for the time. It's been so great learning from you. And if there's ever a way I can help, please let me know. But if you find that you want to have this mentor in your life, make it your mission to help them. I call this eat the mentor's mud. You have to put yourself in a position where you want to serve them. In my culture, when you see an older person that you respect, you touch their feet and take their blessings. And this is a sign that you didn't just take from them, you gave to them, and then it's just a cycle of giving. So the speedy follow-up is really important. You can have the entire conversation, RACE, and I learned this the hard way. If you do not follow up, it means nothing. Now, we've covered the races model, but let's cover a little bit more. We talked earlier about how there are a couple of steps of setup, secure, savor, and sustain. We've covered secure, and I will come to questions in a minute. But let's talk about savor and sustain. And this is really the part that brings me the most joy, because they say the quality of life is directly related to the quality of your relationships, and I absolutely love this. So let's talk about savor and sustain. There was a question in the pre-webinar form where somebody said, my mentor is not checking in with me and I expect them to and such. Understand, my friend, it's on you. It's really on you to make that effort and to stay engaged. And you might be asking, how do you stay engaged? You don't want to feel like you're always asking and taking. And here's the thing, through the conversation, through the A, the C, the E, you've understood where this person has come from, what their interests are outside of work, maybe about their love life, their family life, and you understood where they're going to. And so I literally have a download after every conversation where I just write everything I remember. And so, for example, if I have a friend who's really into, let's say the Rolling Stones, if I have a mentor who's into Rolling Stones, when I see an article, I'll send it to them. When I see a special album being released, I'll send it to them. Do you know what I mean? If I see an inspirational article or a blog post or a quote about anything, I'll say, hey, Shannon, hey, Shaniqua, thought this might be interesting to you. And it's about those small little attention to details. If they have a birthday coming up, give them a call. If their anniversary is coming up, if their son or daughter has a big achievement, it's up to you to put that in your calendar and proactively reach out and engage. Because at the end of the day, chances are they're not being paid for this. You're reaching out to them as people. Some fantastic people from a company called ISR Training taught me once that it's not about the transaction, it's about the experience. When you do all these small things, it really does add up. And so if you ask yourself, how can I bring the most joy to this mentor? It's just a beautiful way to live. Another mentor of mine used to say to people who he was investing in, that your needs are now my priorities. Your needs are now my priorities. So if you have this switch in mindset, in that it's not about what can you take from this, it's about if you give, you just have faith that it will come back to you tenfold, then it'll be a beautiful thing. And you also have a lot more fun about it because conversations are like that. That's what I have to say about sustaining it. I also have to add a very important note about the term mentor. Now, the term mentor can be a very, very scary term. Will you be my mentor? Some people can say, oh my God, it has all these connotations and I have to do all these things and it's going to take so much effort and I have a family and this is just too much. I very rarely ask people to be my mentor. They are my mentor, but I just don't give it that phrasing. I might thank them later. I'd say, thank you so much for being like a mentor to me. But I just find if you ask somebody to be the mentor, it can be a little bit, whoa, that's a lot of commitment, where really it's just having a conversation. Something I read in a book by the people who credit Thank You Water is write them a handwritten letter. Handwritten, not an email, handwritten. Saying, this is what I've learned from you. Thank you so much. I'd be really grateful if you could be a mentor. I totally understand that you're busy, but really, if we could meet once a month or something like that, once every 6 weeks, I'd be so grateful. That's really important. So that's in terms of that. Another thing is keep in mind that there's a really beautiful saying that some people come into your life for a season, some come into your life for a reason, and some, just a few, come in forever. So it's okay that you might have multiple interactions with one mentor for a season and then not for another season and then they come back later, and that's totally okay. It's very human. I make sure that I engage with them. I give them random calls, random check-ins. Hope you have a lovely Tuesday. It's literally that small. Thought of you today. You popped in my mind when I saw this. But I'm very grateful to have very supportive family and such, and they're being very consistent. But I definitely go through seasons and such with my mentors. and how often we interact. But always be asking yourself, how can I serve them and really bring a smile to their day? And the last part, we talked about it already. No matter what, make a summary of what you learned, send it to them, and ask, is there anything you would add or change? And that's also a great way to just continue the conversation. Also, if you're going for coffee or whatever, I would always pay for their coffee. A trick to doing that is saying, I'm going to the bathroom. And then when you're going to the bathroom, also visit the cashier. Because we talked about this already, you want to make them feel like they're precious. So what we're going to do is I'm going to run through what we covered today so far. And then I'm going to open up to questions, and then we'll wrap it up, okay? But if there are any specific questions you have, now is the time to walk into it. And what I'd love it to do, if you could just comment on, just say yes in the comments. If you've gotten some value from today, just comment yes. Alrighty. Let's screen share. Let's run through very quickly. All right. I must say this has been quite enjoyable. I've had the pleasure of presenting to 1,000 people at a time, presenting to one person at a time, and just know that the people who take the time out of their day to invest in themselves is energizing. All right. So just to run through what we did quickly, we talked about how, I'm so grateful. A lot of the success I've had because mentors have opened doors for me and showed me the way, saved me a lot of pain, and really just been a great support. We talked about how this is about securing a mentor. There are other stages like setting up a meeting, finding the right mentor, and sustaining things, but we focused on securing, and we also had touched a bit on savoring and sustaining. We talked about the myths that really, the conversation is not about you. You don't really have to make a sale, and everybody has the capacity to be your mentor in some way, shape, or form. I've had mentors who are 40 years older than me. I've had mentors who are still teenagers. We have something to learn from everybody. We then introduced ourselves to the fantastic racers model, and Mario was very excited, racing off into the distance. We talked about how the first part was all about building rapport, building that connection. It's like getting your foot in the door. You can literally see there's like a door there. Precious. Let them know that you understand that time is precious and you are so grateful for that time. Be present, that they are the only man or the only woman in the world right now, and you just care so much about what they have to say. And finally, what Jacko taught me, a very precious gift he taught me, I had to do with paper and writing things down to show that you really do value things. So that was the R. We then moved on to the A for adventure. And this was all about getting people, hey, what was your story to get here? This is so unique. Did you wake up when you were a little boy and little girl and say, this is what I want to do with my life? Why do you do what you do? And letting them relive the good old days, getting them excited and associating that excitement with you. And also remembering back to when they struggled, when they started out, when they were a beginner. That will give them empathy and make them care a bit more about you too. The A for adventure. The C for clarity captain. They think you're cool. They're like, wow, this person really cares about me and cares about what I have to say. But that's great. What are we going to do together moving forward? Ultimate vision. What needs to happen for them to look back with a huge smile on their face? What would it mean to them when they achieve this? What would it mean if they didn't achieve this? And so what is the clarity of where the boat is going, of which they are the captain? C is for clarity captain. Moving on to the E. This is all great. They love you. They think you're great. You really care about them. You got them excited about their vision. But where do you fit in? And how do you stand out from all the other people trying to get their attention? This is where we come to explicit value. I want you to think broadly. What are 3 ways someone can support you personally or professionally? Thank you so much for your time. I know it's really precious. I'm really inspired by what you have to say, but could you just do me a favor and say, if somebody wanted to support you, how could they support you? Just think of 3 ways. This can be personal, like you're going on a holiday, or professional, yada, 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 but explicit value. This is so explicit. You can rephrase it to make it sound like you, but you need to be explicit in asking this and give them time and support them to give you the answer. We then talked about speedy follow-up. And this is all about being a man of your word or being a woman of your word. And this is so important in today's age. Don't flake. Don't flake. Value a handshake and be that person who follows up and savors and checks in on them. And always, always, always get the mobile number. Just say, listen, I want to make sure that I make you a priority. Emails take a while. I want to make sure that if you message me, I get back to you very quickly. What's your best mobile number? And that is the RACES model. I want to emphasize that you might feel that, oh, it's a bit too structured or it's a bit robotic, a bit mechanical. Where's the human element to it? But rest assured that the more you do it, the more natural it becomes. I don't think about this anymore. And it's so exciting because I know that if I'm really tired or if I'm in a really bad situation, I have something to fall back on. A framework that is clear and concise, and I know that it works. You know, recently I've been on antibiotics, I was in a car crash, and I still have to meet important people and get a connection. And those times, yes, I do rely and think, oh, what's the next step? But 99% of the time, it's just natural now. It's like you and I did not know how to speak a language before, but we might not have to think about it so much now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the screen one last time, put it on the RACES so you can just take down any notes. I'm going to look through the questions, and in about 2 minutes, I'm going to come back and answer the questions, and then we'll go from there. Okay, but if you have any questions, this is your last chance right now to put it in. And also, I have a very, very exciting announcement about a mentorship program that's being launched very soon. It is beyond exciting. So we'll give you 2 minutes and we'll come back to it. Okay. Also, if you could just comment below, what is one thing that you have taken away from today? This will help you retain the information and feedback for the future. Really great engagement from you, Kabiba, Nigma Tuleva. Really great engagement. It's great to see that how much mentors have played a life in what you have achieved. It is about giving rather than taking. Awesome stuff, Courtney Gela. So Chris Raymond Veray had a question. How will you deal after using the RACES model and looking for a mentor? Then you just found out that your prospective mentor does not suit you, especially in achieving your objectives. So just to summarize, let's say you've done the whole RACES model and you find out that your prospective mentor does not suit you, especially in not achieving your objectives. Now, this can be taken a couple of ways, Chris. I'm gonna look at it this way. There are two ways this can be taken. The first way is that they don't have the right experience or resources or connections to help you achieve your goal. That's the first way. And the second way is that they actually don't want to help you. Now, I'm going to look at it the first way, that they don't perhaps have the right capabilities at the moment to help you. Now, this is actually, let's take both ways. They can't help you or they don't want to help you. There's 7 billion people in the world. The chances that not all of them are going to like you is pretty damn high. Pretty damn high. We could get frustrated about it. We could get angry about it. And that's part of the human experience, those emotions. But if we wanted to hold on to it and let that eat at us and really make a grudge, we're the only ones losing out on that. There's a saying that anger is like drinking poison and hoping somebody else will die. So what I'd suggest in that situation is I've definitely had people who I thought were, we were all excited and things were going to be amazing and it was all going to work out and we're going to do well work together, and it's just fallen through. It's flaked, or they got busy or something like that. It happens. And I just say, God bless you, pray emoji, thank you so much, and just move on. And there's no point burning the bridge. Yes, you can feel right in the time, but in the long game, it's a high risk that it'll come back to bite you. You can be right, or you can, yeah, it's a risky game. I wouldn't. You do what you want to do. Now, if they can't help you, be very specific with the sort of people you want to meet. Hey, sir. Hey, madam. Thank you so much for your time. I was just curious, who do you know at this organization? Who do you know at that organization? Who do you know who's doing this? Who do you know that's doing that? So just ask for referrals, and be very clear. Don't say, do you know anybody? Say, who do you know? That's assuming that makes them more inclined to search in their brain about who they could know or such. And if they really can't help you in achieving your goal, then okay, not ideal, but give yourself a pat on the back because you've practiced the RACES model and you're one step closer to internalizing it so it becomes natural. So that's how I would answer that question. All right. So that was the biggest question. Kabiba, you had a lot of great comments. There were more comments. I will leave it at that, but it was fantastic to hear. Hunter, it was great to hear from you as well. Radhika from India, fantastic, and such. If there are no more questions at this stage, I did try to make it very comprehensive, going step by step by step. I want to introduce to you something that I am just truly, truly excited about. And let's talk about this. Now, behind the scenes, the team at Global Changemakers is such an amazing group of people who really care about the community and make an impact not only on a local level, but a big level. Now, I'm telling you, right, I have had the pleasure of getting to know these people personally well beyond their conferences and such, with phone calls, with text messages, and not to call them only people who I professionally know, but personally have a lot of respect for, and I'm grateful to have them in my life. And it's so exciting. They've been working their butts off on this new mentorship program. This new mentorship program where anybody in the world can apply. And if they have even a small spark inside of them to make a social change, to start a movement, or just to improve the lives of one person. My gosh, when I was starting out in this journey, I told you, right? It was the mentors and the support of my family that really was the make or break. And to have a structured mentoring program, that would have been a game changer, I tell you that. So Global Changemakers, that's why I'm so excited to announce that on March 13th, something that I've been working on forever, I've had a look at it, it looks amazing. The new mentorship program is going live. On March 13th, you'll be paired with somebody who is ace in the game, somebody who has walked the walk, somebody who is going to be there in your side of the ring and give you the support, connections, resources, and guidance that you need to make the difference that you want to make. So this is going live on March 13th. I know places are limited, so rewards come to those who take action. So be sure to take action, and the best way to take action is to email this specific address, and the email of the address is this: mentorship@globalchangemakers.net. That's mentorship@global-changemakers.net. mentorship@global-changemakers.net. Message them, put in the subject webinar mentoring inquiry. Webinar mentoring inquiry. And the team there, they're so fantastic. They work their absolute butt off. I think they actually deserve a lot more honoring and appreciation that they do get. But message them and you get all the information. Speaking of information, I know time is precious, so we'll wrap up. But here's the thing. We've walked through now some amazing pieces of content. How you can have somebody who is an industry heavyweight take you under their wing, care for you, open doors for you, give you insights, give you advice on critical decisions so you can have this feeling of confidence and certainty that you are taken care of, and so much faster, so much faster, achieve your goal no matter what that is. Professionally, personally, the world is full of mentors. We can learn something from everybody. And I'm so glad we got to spend this time together. And just understand that when you sow smiles, you will grow miles. People ask me sometimes, how do you stay authentic? How do you stay present? How do you stay genuine? And, yes, there's a framework, the RACES framework. R for rapport, A for adventure, C for clarity captain, E for explicit value, S for speedy follow-up. Yes, there is that, but it's all just to be a support. I'm so grateful for the mentors in my life. They've given me guidance, they've given me advice in the good times and the bad times. Literally yesterday, I was having a rough time and I drove an hour. My mentor made time for me. We met just at an airport lounge because he was so busy, but it really did give me a lot of clarity. And so if you're ever wondering, I want to be genuine, do I really do this? What do I do? Can I be a mentee? Will they give me time? Just remember this one saying that I coined. When you sow smiles, you will grow miles. When you sow smiles, you will grow miles. I'm so excited to hear about the smiles you sow, and I can't wait to hear about your success. Enjoy. Let me know how it goes. That'd mean the biggest thing. Have a lovely day. Bye.